From the time you're a kid, you were basically handed this cultural blueprint for a happy life, right?
Absolutely.
It's always get a good job, make a ton of money, get married, and definitely have kids.
Right, the standard checklist.
Yeah. But what if the data actually shows that hitting a certain income bracket completely flatlines your joy? Or, and this is a big one, that having kids statistically makes you less happy.
Yeah, that one always surprises people.
It really does. So today, we're basically tearing up that cultural blueprint. We're taking a deep dive into the actual rigorous science of subjective well-being. And, for you listening at home, we are trying something just a little bit different today.
We are.
Yeah, I am officially adopting the role of the skeptical student today. Got my notebook ready, and I am putting you firmly in the shoes of the lecturer.
Well, I will gladly accept the title of lecturer today. I mean, it's a brilliant topic for a masterclass, honestly.
I think so, too.
Because the subject we're dissecting is something that absolutely every single person listening to us right now obsesses over. We pursue it relentlessly, and yet we very rarely actually understand it on a mechanical level.
Exactly. So for our syllabus today, we are using section 14.5 of chapter 14 from Psychology 2E.
Perfect.
And the mission here is to kind of step away from psychology's traditional, grim focus on trauma and pathology. We want to scientifically dissect happiness, what it actually is, who inherently has it, and the mechanisms behind how you can actually get it.
Right. Moving toward the positive.
So as your student, I have to start with the absolute foundation. Before we can chase this elusive state, how does section 14.5 actually define it? Because, the spike of joy I get from finding 20 bucks in my jeans feels profoundly different from the satisfaction of, finishing a massive creative project.
Yeah, that distinction is exactly where the textbook starts, because the scientific community defines true happiness not as this fleeting mood, but as a long-term state of subjective well-being.
Subjective well-being. Okay.
Right. It's not just a quick hit of dopamine. Researchers like Martin Seligman, they've broken subjective well-being down into 3 distinct measurable elements that they really have to work together.
Okay, let's unpack this. What are these 3 elements and how do they actually interact?
So the first is called the pleasant life. This is the attainment of your day-to-day pleasures.
Like the 20 bucks in the jeans.
Exactly. Or the joy of an evening walk, enjoying a fantastic meal, having a fulfilling sex life, or just laughing at a movie.
Right.
But alone, that is not enough. The second element is the good life.
Okay, what's that?
This is achieved by identifying your own unique skills and abilities and then actively engaging those talents. It's that deep absorption you feel when you're using your specific strengths to overcome a challenge.
Oh, interesting. And the third piece of the puzzle?
The meaningful life. This is where you find fulfillment by taking those unique talents from the good life and you use them to benefit others or, to serve the greater good. It's all about purpose.
Okay, so as I'm looking at this mechanically, let's say it's an engine. The pleasant life is the spark plug, right? It provides these quick, necessary bursts of ignition and joy that keep things moving day to day.
I like that. Yes.
And the good life is the transmission. You are actively shifting gears, engaging your specific skills, putting the power to the road.
Right, the engagement.
And then the meaningful life is the steering wheel. It gives all that momentum, actual direction, and purpose. Because, you can't really drive the car if you're missing any of those 3 parts.
That is a phenomenal analogy, actually. The textbook explicitly notes that the happiest people pursue what psychologists call the full life.
The full life.
Right. They orient their pursuits toward all 3 of those elements simultaneously. Because, like you said, a spark plug firing without a steering wheel just leaves you idling in place.
Just burning gas.
Exactly. Which is exactly what happens when people only chase momentary pleasures.
Okay, so if happiness is this 3-part mechanical system, the pleasant, the good, and the meaningful, how successfully are people around the world actually building it?
Well, the global data is really fascinating here. When you ask people worldwide to evaluate their current lives on a scale from 0 to 10, the global average is 5.2.
Really? Just right down the middle?
Right down the middle. People in North America, Australia, and New Zealand, they average around 7.1.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, and Sub-Saharan Africa is at 4.6. But the absolute masters of the full life are in Europe. The 5 happiest countries are Denmark, Norway, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Sweden.
Wow, so the Nordic countries are just crushing it. Where does the United States fall in all this?
The United States ranks 17th.
17th. Wow.
Yeah, and more importantly, the trend line is actually pointing down.
Wait, really? We're getting less happy.
We are. A few years ago, a Gallup survey showed 52% of U.S. adults reporting they were very happy, but a more recent poll cited in the text found that number plummeted to 42%.
A 10% drop in the very happy category across an entire population.
Yeah.
That is a massive demographic shift. Who exactly is absorbing that decline?
The data shows the greatest declines are among people of color, individuals who have not completed a college education, and those who politically identify as Democrats or independents.
Why those specific groups, though? I mean, the textbook mentions challenging economic conditions, but as the student here, I feel like we have to dig deeper into the mechanism. Is it just about lacking money, or is it about like a fundamental lack of psychological safety?
It is absolutely about psychological safety. When economic conditions become challenging, the societal safety net frays.
Right.
And for individuals without systemic advantages, whether that's due to race, educational background, or socioeconomic status, that fraying creates this chronic low-grade existential stress.
Because you're constantly worried about the floor dropping out.
Yeah. Exactly. You aren't just losing out on the pleasant life, your actual baseline of security is threatened. It's incredibly difficult to pursue the meaningful life when your brain is constantly allocating resources to basic survival.
Yeah, navigating all that systemic friction, that makes total sense. The foundation has to be secure before you can build the house.
Precisely.
So let's look at what actually moves the needle on happiness. What are the traits of the people who are hitting those 8, 9, or 10 scores?
Social relationships are the heavy hitters. Married people report being significantly happier than those who are single, divorced, or widowed.
Okay.
Strong social support networks are essentially the absolute bedrock of subjective well-being. But this is also where the data throws a massive curveball regarding what society tells us we should want.
Oh, this is the parenting paradox, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I knew it.
Despite the deep cultural narrative that parenthood is the ultimate key to a fulfilling life, aggregate findings from multiple countries indicate that people who do not have children are generally happier than those who do.
I feel like the parents listening to you right now are probably just nodding their heads in exhausted validation.
Probably.
But what is the psychological mechanism there? Because parents clearly experience profound moments of joy. So why does the data show they are less happy overall?
It really comes down to the daily aggregate of stress. While children provide massive spikes in that meaningful life fulfillment we talked about,
The purpose.
they also introduce relentless, compounding daily stressors, financial strain, sleep deprivation, loss of personal autonomy, logistical chaos.
Getting them to soccer practice, paying for braces. Yeah.
Right? And for many, those constant daily frictions overwhelm the intermittent peaks of profound joy, which lowers their overall subjective well-being score.
Wow. Okay, what about attractiveness? Society certainly tells us that being beautiful is basically a cheat code for a happy life.
The data strongly disagrees with that one, too. Yeah. While a person's perceived level of attractiveness predicts their happiness, meaning if you feel confident, you feel happier, a person's objective physical attractiveness is only weakly correlated with their happiness.
Oh, so being genetically blessed does not actually buy you a ticket to a happier life.
Not at all.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Because you said being beautiful doesn't buy you a ticket. But as a skeptical student, I have to challenge the textbook on actual literal money.
All right, let's hear it.
Because if the pleasant life requires evening walks on the beach and nice dinners, and the good life requires time to develop your skills, I mean, money buys time and experiences.
Yeah.
How can wealth not directly correlate with happiness?
It's a great challenge. And the text confirms that on a macro level, residents of affluent countries are happier, and wealthy individuals are happier than poor individuals.
Well, obviously.
But researchers Kahneman and Deaton conducted a massive study of over 450,000 U.S. residents, and they found that well-being rises with annual income only up to a very specific threshold.
Which is what?
$75,000.
Okay, I have to push back hard here.
I figured you might.
First of all, $75,000 in today's economy, with current inflation and housing costs, does not go very far.
That's a very fair point.
But even if we adjust that number for inflation, let's say it's, I don't know, $110,000 today. If I make $1 million a year, I never worry about a medical bill, I fly private, I eliminate all financial friction. How does that extra money result in exactly zero increase in reported well-being?
To understand that, you have to look at what money is actually doing to your brain. up to that threshold, whether it's 75K then or 110K now money, is actively removing tangible pain.
Right.
It buys food, shelter, healthcare, peace of mind. It turns off that chronic survival stress we talked about earlier.
Right, the phrase safety net.
Exactly. But beyond that threshold, you are no longer buying the removal of pain. You are buying luxury. And our brains adapt to luxury almost instantly.
Oh. So the 10th time you fly private, it just feels like commuting.
Precisely. In fact, extreme wealth can actually damage your baseline.
Damage it, how?
The textbook details this fascinating study where participants were exposed to a subliminal reminder of wealth, just the mere subconscious suggestion of money. And then they were given a piece of chocolate.
Wait, a subliminal picture of money in a chocolate bar. What's the connection?
Well, the participants who were reminded of wealth spent significantly less time savoring the chocolate, and they exhibited much less enjoyment compared to the control group.
Really? Just from thinking about money?
Yeah. The mechanism at play here is sensory contrast. When your brain is anchored to the idea of abundance and high-end luxury, it actually dulls your capacity to savor small, everyday pleasures.
Wow.
If you eat caviar every day, a perfectly ripe strawberry stops feeling like a miracle. It basically becomes a disappointment.
That is wild. So if wealth dulls our senses and extreme beauty doesn't really matter, why are we all so universally terrible at predicting what will actually make us happy? I mean, everyone I know still thinks a promotion or a lottery ticket is the ultimate answer.
That is due to a cognitive blind spot called affective forecasting.
Effective forecasting.
Right. It is our inability to predict the intensity and duration of our future emotions. We suffer from something called focalism.
Meaning we focus on the wrong thing.
Exactly. When you imagine winning the lottery, you focus entirely on the giant novelty check and the champagne.
Yeah, the mansion.
You completely forget that a year later, you still have to go to the dentist, you still get into arguments with your spouse, and you still get stuck in traffic.
So we forecast the big event, but we completely forget to forecast the reality of just daily life. How does the textbook illustrate this?
It uses newlywed couples. Nearly all newlywed spouses confidently predict their marital satisfaction will remain perfectly stable or improve over the next 4 years.
I mean, you'd hope so if you're getting married.
Right. But despite that extreme optimism, the data shows their actual marital satisfaction steadily declines during that period. Or take sports fans. Fans of the Chicago Cubs honestly believe that if they finally won a World Series, which they did in 2016, they would feel permanently elated.
But they don't stay forever joyful. Because of adaptation.
Exactly. It's a concept called sensory adaptation. Think about what happens when you walk out of a dark movie theater into the bright afternoon sun.
You're totally blinded for a second.
Right. For a second, the light is overwhelming. But very quickly, your pupils constrict, your brain recalibrates, and it just becomes the normal level of light.
We just adjust to the new baseline.
Yes, it's the emotional new normal. We are essentially running on a hedonic treadmill. When something amazing happens, we get a blinding surge of pleasure. But our brains are chemically wired to seek equilibrium, so the thrill erodes, and we revert to our original baseline happiness levels.
So what does this all mean? If we are permanently stuck on this hedonic treadmill, and our brains forcefully adapt to whatever happens, is trying to improve our lives completely pointless. Do we always just bounce back to the exact same baseline?
Not always, and that's a crucial distinction here. While we adapt to positive events very quickly, researchers really wanted to know if severe negative events permanently damage the baseline.
Okay, what do they do?
They looked at longitudinal data from over 3,000 German respondents, tracking them for years before, during, and after major life events.
What did the mechanism show? Why wouldn't we adapt to the bad stuff just like we adapt to the good
The
stuff?
data show that people adapted to marriage, sure, but they did not fully adapt to unemployment, widowhood, or severe disabilities.
Really? They never bounce back?
No. People who were laid off experienced a massive drop in life satisfaction, and years later, their baseline remained permanently shifted downward.
Wow. What?
The reason we don't adapt is that unemployment isn't just a simple loss of income. It's a systemic removal of the good life and the meaningful life. It strips away daily structure, social connection, and a sense of purpose.
It takes away the transmission in the steering wheel.
Exactly. That creates a compounding daily friction that the brain cannot just normalize.
Okay, so a negative event like unemployment can permanently lower our baseline, which naturally leads me to my next question as the student. Can we permanently raise the baseline without relying on some fleeting external event like a lottery win? Can we actively rewire the treadmill?
We absolutely can. And honestly, this realization caused a massive paradigm shift in psychology. In 1998, Martin Seligman became president of the American Psychological Association, and he basically declared that psychology needed to stop focusing exclusively on faults and pathology.
He wanted to look at what was working.
Right, he essentially birthed positive psychology, the rigorous scientific study of human strength and happiness.
So they started testing actual interventions. What actually worked?
They found that incredibly simple interventions can permanently alter neural pathways. For example, an exercise of simply writing down 3 good things that occurred each day led to measurable increases in happiness that lasted for over 6 months.
Because it's not just a cute diary entry, right?
Okay.
It's actively training the brain's reticular activating system.
Yes.
By forcing yourself to write down 3 good things, you are literally rewiring your brain to actively scan your environment for positive stimuli rather than just defaulting to its evolutionary negative bias.
Exactly. You are training the brain like a muscle. And the physical impacts of this are absolutely staggering. The textbook highlights this concept of positive affect, which is basically pleasurable engagement with your environment. It's characterized by joy, enthusiasm, and alertness.
How does that actually affect the physical body, though?
The text cites a 10-year study of Nova Scotians. Researchers found that for every 1-point increase on a measure of positive affect, the rate of heart disease dropped by 22%.
Wait, a 22% drop from a single point increase in psychological affect?
Yeah.
That is wild.
It really is. Optimism is directly linked to longevity, healthier behaviors, lower pain levels, and significantly better immune functioning.
Incredible.
This connection is so undeniable that at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, they established the Center for Investigating Healthy Minds. They are conducting clinical neuroscientific research proving that qualities like compassion and mindfulness can be systematically trained to alter the physical brain.
Okay, so we know we can train our brains for positive affect. But what about the day-to-day, hour-to-hour experience? If extreme wealth dulls our senses and staring at our phones makes us miserable, what is the actual mechanism for living a fulfilling, Tuesday afternoon?
The textbook points to a concept developed by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He called it flow.
Flow. I mean, I hear athletes talk about this, like being in the zone. But what is the actual psychological mechanism of flow?
Csikszentmihalyi described flow as an experience so incredibly engaging and engrossing that it becomes worth doing purely for its own sake. When you are in flow, you lose yourself in the activity.
Like time just stops.
Yeah. Right. Your concentration is effortless, you feel complete control, and time literally seems to vanish.
Wait, I need to clarify this.
Yeah.
Because if I sit on my couch, totally zone out, and lose track of time scrolling on social media for 3 hours, time vanished. Right. Was I in flow? Did I achieve the peak psychological state?
Absolutely not. And understanding the difference there is the key to this whole section. The textbook clarifies that flow only occurs when you are engaged in challenging activities that require skills and knowledge you actually possess.
Oh, okay. It's the friction. It's active engagement versus passive consumption.
Precisely. Scrolling requires 0 skill and offers 0 challenge. It is basically apathy. Flow happens when you are operating at the very edge of your capability.
So like playing a really competitive game of tennis or trying to study Arabic.
Yes, or writing code, or cooking a highly complex meal. It requires your brain to be fully actively stretched.
And the beauty of flow is that it perfectly encapsulates the good life element we talked about at the start.
Yeah.
You are identifying your unique skills and engaging them fully. And what I really love about this is flow doesn't cost a dime.
Not a cent.
It requires absolutely 0 wealth.
None at all. A teenager painting in a garage experiences the exact same neurological state of flow as a billionaire racing a yacht. The textbook argues that finding an activity you are truly enthusiastic about, something so absorbing that the doing of it is the reward itself, is the literal key to a fulfilling life.
Okay, well, I am going to drop my student persona just for a moment to summarize this for you listening, because the implications here are massive.
Yeah.
What Section 14.5 is basically telling us is that our entire cultural blueprint for happiness is largely wrong.
It really is.
Happiness isn't a permanent high we get from buying a bigger house, and it's definitely not the passive accumulation of wealth and beauty. It is an active, measurable, trainable skill. It is an engine that requires day-to-day pleasures, deep social relationships, and the active, challenging friction of flow.
That is the perfect synthesis. But as the lecturer today, I do want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Oh, all right. Let's hear it.
The science unequivocally shows that active flow and community contribution are the true biological and psychological keys to well-being.
Right.
It also explicitly shows that endless wealth accumulation actually impairs our ability to enjoy life's simple pleasures, and that passive consumption makes us numb. So we really have to ask ourselves, are our modern hyper-consumer-driven economic systems, which constantly demand that we buy more, earn more, and passively consume more, are they inherently mechanically designed to keep us perpetually unsatisfied?
Wow. Are we operating inside a societal machine that is fundamentally incompatible with our own neurological happiness?
Something to think about.
That is definitely a thought that'll stick with you. Well, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the true science of subjective well-being. Step away from the passive scrolling, engage your skills, and go find your own state of flow today.